Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I know I only have one video and I haven't posted in a really long time, but it's summer now, so expect me to make more videos. I know my last video was about the mother-daughter book club, and I said I was going to do like a little series of middle grade books, like a video series, and I still plan on doing that, but today we're going to be talking about the 2003 film 13. Yes, I know that movie is like R-rated and I probably shouldn't have watched that because I'm only 14. But I did watch it, and honestly, it intrigued me like so much that here I am. I'm making a YouTube video about it, so I really hope you guys enjoy it. This video has been like in the making since like late 2022, and I'm just now making it, so please give a thumbs up because I worked really hard on it. Before I start this video, I would like to preface this with a bit of a trigger warning, because there will be discussion of topics such as eating disorders, self-harm, smoking, drugs, drinking, stuff like that. So if that's like not your thing, I would not watch this video. So for anyone who doesn't know what 13 is, don't worry, I can give you a basic rundown. But keep in mind this video will make a lot more sense if you watch the movie, as we'll be mentioning a bit of plot points that I might miss in a second. But of course, everyone is welcome to watch this video. 13 is about 13-year-old Tracy Freeland, who is a straight-A student, generally well-behaved. But on the first day of middle school, she sees the queen bee of the school, Evie Zamora, and her friends. And after they make fun of her Cabbage Patch clothes, she decides to get rid of her good girl image and falls in with Evie's group. And Evie introduces her to a world of petty crime, drugs, drinking, things like that. She really flipped her whole world upside down, and this affects every single relationship in Tracy's life, especially with her mother. The script was written by Catherine Hardwicke and Nikki Reed, who loosely based the script off of her own life. When she was in 6th grade, Catherine Hardwicke, who's known her since she was a child, noticed that she started to act differently, she was dressing differently, and she was constantly angry towards her mom. So Catherine started to invite her over to her house for days at a time and persuaded her to participate in positive activities to get her out of the spiral that she was in. Together, they started writing the script of 13, which originally started out as a teen comedy, but when Catherine Hardwicke saw the group of Nikki's friends, aka the characters who inspired Evie, she decided that it was a much more interesting story, and thus 13 was born. I am so sorry, this chair that I'm sitting on, it's like breaking as I sit on it, and it's like squeaking and stuff, so if you hear like really random squeaking noises, that's what that is. Anyway, back to what I was saying. And speaking of which, a lot of people, like how I just said, a lot of people on the internet are constantly asking or just wondering who the real Evie is, and obviously it's not one specifically set person. From my understanding from the article that I read, it's a group of people that Nikki hung around with until they got arrested for dealing drugs, which is not something that you hear every day happening to like 13, 12-year-olds. But to quote her, she said, "After they left school, I had no army. When I was with them, I thought I had everything. I would walk down the hall like I was the queen of the world. It was an invincible feeling. I thought I knew who I was. Then they were gone and I had no friends. I was sitting home all day alone. I had no defense." So all of that definitely contributed to the making of the character Evie. I've also read the original script, and there are a lot of subtle but interesting changes. There are some deleted scenes that you can watch on YouTube that are in the script, but there are a few from the script that just got cut completely, such as a little school tour that Tracy's older brother gives Tracy and her friend. Evie was originally supposed to be a blonde, and the character Medina seemed to have like a bigger role, but she's like hardly seen in the movie. We probably see her like 3 times. So yeah, there's a lot of like little subtle changes. I would definitely recommend reading and going through the script if you're a fan of the movie, because it was really interesting to read. Also, Evie's guardian, Brooke, is referred to as her mom several times in the script, but it's also very consistent as to what Brooke's connection is to Evie. In the movie, Brooke starts off as Evie's guardian, then her cousin, then her aunt. But in the script, Evie calls her mom instead of Brooke at one point, but also tells Tracy to remember that Brooke isn't her real mom, which it was really confusing to me, and I've seen a bunch of other people be confused about it too. I guess we'll never know. Another point that I want to bring up is that while I do agree with the collective opinion that Evie ruined Tracy, I also think that Tracy was a ticking time bomb of sorts. We see from the beginning that she feels heavily ignored by her mother, plus she already smokes and self-harms. She was struggling prior to Evie, and I think once she had fallen in with Evie, it just brought out something in her that Evie hadn't created. She just kind of showed it to the world. I watched another 13 analysis by Barnett. I'll link it in the description, it's very good. And they say that most of the things Tracy does and says are not a reflection of her as a person, but also more of her inner feelings, and that's a very valid take that I definitely agree with. That being said, Evie's actions don't only affect Tracy. Like I mentioned before, we see throughout the movie how much it affects Melanie, Tracy's mom, Mason, her brother, Brady, Melanie's boyfriend, who Tracy does not like at all, and even her neighbors. It's really disheartening to see. What really interests me is the ending scene where Tracy is spinning on a merry-go-round in a playground. I think the way it's filmed is really nice. The way the camera is just like shaking and it kind of builds up until Tracy is like screaming in the middle of that park, and then it just cuts off and then the movie's over. Lots of people are confused on what the scene actually means, but obviously it's up for interpretation. But what I think, like my interpretation, I think that Tracy's screaming because she's like finally free, because even though Evie was her best friend and obviously they did care about each other to some degree, I feel like if I had a friend like Evie and she was suddenly out of my life, I would be feeling pretty conflicted, but I'd also be like, I'm free, I don't have to do all of this anymore. Like that's how I perceive it, but obviously anyone can say whatever they want. As far as how the end of the movie strings along, I think Tracy knew that everyone perceived Evie as some sort of life ruiner, or maybe some other reason, but that was why she didn't want her mom to adopt Evie. But she's also visibly hurt when Evie stops talking to her after the adoption thing is like rejected. That part really confused me, but who knows. Also, I just want to point out that the coloring in this movie is so good. If you watch the movie, you'll notice that the tint gets bluer and bluer as Tracy's life goes more downhill. And in the second to last scene, it's so blue, like in the betrayal scene where Evie pins everything that happened in the movie on Tracy. It's just straight blue. And then when Tracy goes to sleep, when she wakes up after all of that happened, the color is back to normal. And I thought that was a really nice decision. Next, I just wanted to point out a few underlying issues in and out of the movie, such as Evie's home situation. It's very hard to tell if she's being truthful about the abuse she suffered. Of course, we see a little bit of it is proven true. But in the original script, there's a cut line where Evie mentions that Brooke physically hurts her. We see that Brooke isn't the best guardian, as she lets Evie run wild and do whatever she wants. And she lets Evie and Tracy drink in her house. So, who knows? Maybe she did hurt Evie. But despite this, I think that Evie has been through some major trauma to make her the way she is. And this goes for Tracy too. In the script, during the second to last scene, also known as the betrayal, Evie is portrayed as happy in the script, but in the actual scene, she's crying. And Nikki Reed said in the 10-year anniversary Q&A that she thought that Evie probably should have been happy that Tracy was getting busted, but instead, when they were filming it, she just started to cry. And I don't know about you guys, but honestly, I thought that the scene worked much better if she was crying as well as Tracy, because it just showed us a whole other side of Evie that we didn't really get to see too much of before.
It was so intense for everybody that I reacted in that scene like a human being would. And if I had been, I think, more of a trained actress at the time, I would have held it together, because why would Evie cry? This isn't Evie. She's probably enjoying this. She's probably... But I was so affected by Evan's, I don't even want to call it a performance because it was so real. I was so affected by everything she was doing, giving, and it was so heavy that I was just crying too and angry at...
Second, it's slightly implied that Tracy has an eating disorder. She always denies when her mom wants to make food for her, and she states that she's on a diet, but this is hardly touched on in the movie. Okay guys, now here is the part... I'm so sorry that I keep touching my hair. Anyway, here's the part that I really have been waiting to talk about. Social media's perception of the film. I have no idea when this happened, but 13 just blew up on TikTok. It's everywhere. It's edit after edit after edit. Also, all of the edits are the same, but you didn't hear that from me. Nikki Reed stated in the 10-year anniversary Q&A that if 13 was released today, the message would be lost. And I think that's exactly what is happening right now. Everyone is always saying, I want to be like Tracy, or I want to be like Evie, or I want to have what they have, like their friendship. And I think what people don't realize is this is not a lifestyle that you want to have. In the film, everyone in Tracy's life is affected by her actions, and it just turns into one huge mess that leaves Tracy a wreck. Like, you do not want that to happen to you. Like, I don't care how cool it might look what they're doing in the movie, it's just not logical. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you and say that 13 is unrealistic. The movie still holds up despite being 20 years old. And while I personally don't do any of the stuff that they do in the movie, I definitely have always been aware that there were girls my age who did that. I was always kind of scared of them. I still am. But if I ever talked to my mom the way that Tracy does, I would be dead. Like, I would not be making this video because I would be 6 feet under. Even if you weren't doing the same stuff that they were at 13, it's still somewhat relatable because at that age you want to be liked and you want to be cool, and you're going through a lot of emotions that you may or may not be lashing out on other people. And this can be represented in any 13-year-old, not just Tracy and Evie. And I'm 14, so I would say I know. Teenage experience. It's great, isn't it? That being said, it is really intriguing to me to see what a 13 remake would be like now. But then again, the message is going to be disregarded just like it is right now. And besides, 13 with social media added in would actually be my worst nightmare. Like, it would be more of a heavy watch than it is right now. That is all I have to say for today's video. I am so glad that I finally got around to making this video. It has been in my Google Docs for months. That was my second draft that has finally made it into this video. Like, this video has been in the making for so long, so I am really glad that I finally was able to make it. If you're a fan of the movie, please tell me what you thought of this video in the comments. Or if you're not and you just watched this just because, that's cool too. I will see you guys next time, and I really hope you enjoyed this video.